everyone, and welcome back to A Theater Near You. My name is Kris Randazzo, and I'm joined this evening, as always, by bank-robbing clown Paul Giroux.
I'm a crying on the inside kind of clown.
Ah, man, you ruined it, because I was going to say the crying on the inside kind, Sean Doyle.
I guess if I'm the crying on the inside, it's bad luck just to see a thing like that.
This is off to a great start. This month's letter was Q, and we went with Paul's pick, Quick Change. How do we feel about the high-stakes world of clown-themed bank robbery? Let's find out right now.
How do I feel about it in general? I mean, bank robbery is the way that the proletariat rebels against the bourgeoisie. So,
Yeah, I'm pretty okay with I mean, I guess I don't know how I feel about bank robbery on a general level. Like when I really think about it, I really enjoyed the current Star Wars Andor series, and there was a sort of a bank robbery going on in that.
Mm-hmm.
They robbed the payroll department of the whole.
Yeah, they robbed a
empire?
payroll.
Yeah.
Sounds like the
It was
beginning of
like a bank.
Firefly. I don't remember if it was the beginning of the movie or the first episode. They
Hey,
robbed the payroll of the thing.
was it that train
in
heist?
space.
Are you talking about the train heist episode?
You talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
It was Firefly or Serenity or whatever. It was
I
either
think
the
it was
first
Serenity.
episode of the series or the beginning of the
First
movie.
episode of
They do the bank
I think it
robbery
was
and they
the
get locked
beginning
in
of
the
the movie.
vault, or they make the villagers get locked
Yeah.
in the vault because the Reavers are coming.
Yeah, that was the movie. That
The
was
movie.
Serenity.
All right.
Oh, okay.
God, it's been way too long since I've watched that.
Which that felt a little Star Warsy, and now Star Wars is just doing the thing that felt like. Look, I don't want to call it a knockoff because it was its own thing.
Yeah, I don't know that you can call, robbing shit one specific genre. I don't think that belongs to any one specific kind of science fiction. And this was a pretty different it's a pretty different operation than what they pulled on Firefly.
Yeah,
But,
like Firefly was a space western. Like that couldn't be more clear. And sorry, the reason I asked about the train heist thing was like actually because there was one episode that was a like it was like a space train. It was like a hovering train, and they pulled some like train robbery on it.
Yeah.
Well, so the thing was that was like episode 3 or something like that, right? And there was a 2-part, when Firefly aired, there was a 2-part premiere that like explained the whole thing. And Fox was just like, we don't like this. We want to start with something more interesting, like this train heist. And they were like,
yes, so the train heist was the first aired episode.
So it kind of I think they lost a lot of momentum with the show because people didn't know what the hell they were watching, and that was why.
What?
I mean, it was such a good show, but it got most of its following on DVD when, you could watch it start to finish and go, oh, now I understand.
Right. What brilliant jackass gets paid a bunch of money at these networks to air these shows out of order? Like they did the same thing with Clerks. Not that had a running thing, but like it was just random. They were like, let's jump into this one and like those characters that we haven't introduced. Not that they mattered because they were canceling the show anyway, but they did it with Firefly. And then what was I watching the other day? And what's extra weird, it was something stupid. It was some old sitcom. What the hell were we watching? Whatever it was, it might have been Mad About You or something. We put on sitcoms when we go to sleep. Jacqueline had never seen that one. We were like, this will take us a month to get through. There's like 4 or 5 seasons or whatever. I think it was that one. And they just decided they were going to air 2 of the episodes out of order. And so that's how they are on the thing now because they got numbered. Episode, it aired at, season 4, episode 1, season 4, episode 2, season 4, episode 3. But they flipped 2 of them out of order. And the 2 they flipped out of order mattered. Like you showed the first half of a 2-parter, then a random other episode that had nothing to do with nothing, and then the second half of the 2-parter. Like, what? Why? Why would you do that? It didn't make any sense.
Have you ever watched Star Wars: The Clone Wars?
The cartoon series?
Yeah.
Not really. I've seen an episode or two, but I haven't watched it.
I
That
I tried to. I couldn't understand who it was made for. Like is it made for kids or is it made for nerds? It just seemed like a lot of like squarely drawn people and like space politics. I didn't understand it.
yeah, it didn't really figure out who it was for until like I'd say probably properly around season 3. But that's a show that aired hilariously out of order. Like, if you were trying to follow that shit, good luck. The chronological first episode is like the first episode of season 3, which then the next chronological episode was season 3, episode 5. And like they did this all throughout the series. Like season 2, if you wanted to watch it in the order that it happens, it was like episode 1, 2, 3, 17, 18, 19, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 20, 21, 22. Like, what the hell? It was,
Yeah, and somebody made that decision. Like somebody,
yeah.
yeah, super weird.
That's you know, somebody made the decision. Sure, there's stupid people in the world. Somebody got paid to make that stupid decision. That's somebody's job, and they're making
Yeah.
those bad calls. Like, I pay me. I'll not. I will. You know, no. That's why that guy's got to get paid because I wouldn't do it. I'd be like, no, just put him, just leave him in order, man. The guy wrote them
just
in
tell the
order.
story. Yeah,
Just tell the story.
You
It's
had-
not even like
you
they're
had
trying
one
to Quentin
job.
Tarantino it, right?
Nah, I'm telling you, people want to watch this one more. Like, well, then they'll want to watch that one just fine 3 weeks from now. Just tell
When
that
it makes
shit.
sense and they understand who the damn characters are. What are
You're
you
not gonna
talking about?
Absolute madness.
Well,
So anyway, hi everyone.
I was just gonna say, that while while Firefly was like a space western, I feel like that heist in Andor was more like a space versions of like Ocean's 11.
Yeah, kinda. It was definitely more. It's definitely pretty intense. I loved that episode.
Like-
That was one of the best Star Wars things I think I've ever seen.
It was more
That
a
was nuts.
heist than anything else. Like a
Yeah. Oh God, I'm loving that show. I am loving that show to death.
I'm not loving it. I'm
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's slow. Like all the stories individually are interesting. Like I'm interested in all the parts of them, but I feel like when you put them all together, like it just really it moves very slowly, and like I feel like it's because it's all the stuff about Star Wars that is space politics and none of the stuff that's like, you know, like space smugglers, like smart mouth space smugglers or, wizards with laser swords, you know what I mean? Like it's all
Oh yeah, it's like not Star Warsy, but also Star Wars at the same time.
Yeah.
It's really
I think
different. I'm loving the crap out
I
of it.
think a thing that's like all space politics is not Star Wars. It's like Battlestar Galactica or something, like
Still feels nice and Star Warsy to me, but just like a different flavor of Star Wars, and I like that. I want different flavors of Star Wars. I love them going to different planets that I haven't seen before, like what was it, Space Florida they went to in the the new episode where he wound up getting roped into 6 years in jail or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that was actually the first one that I started. Well, I guess the heist one was cool, but that one, yeah, I guess I started showing more interest a little bit. Like at one point I was like, where's all the weird aliens? Like, why haven't we seen any weird aliens in this show? And then he went to that like resort planet and there was weird aliens. And I was like, all right, well, thank you for listening to me, show.
Thanks for delivering weird aliens.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just I mean, I'm gonna stick with it, but I just don't know. It makes me
That's
wish.
how I'm feeling about House of the Dragon, honestly.
Oh, I'm not. I haven't watched Game of Thrones, so I don't know any of that stuff. I tried to watch the first episode, and it seemed like it was all just a bunch of people pointing at each other and saying their long, complicated names. So
Do you mean the first episode of the new thing or the first episode?
like the first episode of Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones,
Like
yeah.
I watched one episode and then I never kept watching it.
Yeah, me too. I watched it when it first aired because everyone was like, "This is gonna be great." I watched the first episode and then I never watched any other bit of it. You and me should watch it together in one sitting, the whole thing, and we'll just we'll get some cocaine, keep ourselves up, and we'll live stream the whole thing. Just hot reactions on very old, outdated things that everyone else has already seen.
Put that on your Patreon, Chris.
I would pay money to see that, without a douut.
Paul and Sean do hard drugs and stay up for 3 weeks straight to watch Game of Thrones.
Is it
All
really
of
that long? No, it couldn't. What would it be? Is it more than 48 hours? I can look. We did all the Jason movies in 2 days straight. That took about 40 hours. Is it really more than 48 hours of Game of Thrones?
I
How long
don't
did it
know.
run?
There's like 6 or 7 seasons, I think.
Yeah, but it was like HBO. You probably got like 8 episodes a season.
True.
So that's like, and they're probably an hour each. So yeah, it's like probably 2 days of watching. Just gotta want it.
All right. I'm up for it if
And
you
not
are.
have kids. I got some vacation time. Let's do this thing.
Let's see. I don't know when this was posted. Oh, this was August 18th. As of August 18th, 2022, it looks like it's 2 days, 15 hours, and 30 minutes.
Ooh, a little longer than I thought, but all right. So you have to really want it. Hey, we are going to need the Coke. When I first said it was a joke, I was more thinking just coffee and soda, but you get past that 48th hour, you start feeling it.
I've been having Karen and I have been struggling with House of the Dragon because it's like the thing with Game of Thrones, like it eventually hooked us because there were people to root for. Everyone's horrible in House of the Dragon, all of them. Like even the ones that I think the show wants me to root for, like no one's likable at all, and I don't know. It's But I'm freaking loving Andor, and we finally finished season 1 of Harley Quinn, which is amazing. And after we finish House of the Dragon, which I think the season finale is next week, we're gonna try out that Lord of the Rings show and see if that grabs us any different.
That Harley Quinn show is funny. Do you watch that, Sean?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think there's a new season out that we might not have watched yet. Me and her have watched, did we watch 2 seasons or 3 seasons?
Oh, yeah, there is a 3rd season. And
I think we watched 2, and I think the 3rd one is out or partially out. I don't think we've watched all the new season, but that show's great. I rewatched the first season. I enjoyed it so much. I was like, I'm just gonna watch this again.
There was something
we just finished season 1, and we're gonna switch back over to Lower Decks after that, which was also ridiculously good.
There was something so funny in this new season of Harley Quinn that I was going to talk about it, but it sounds like nobody's there. I think it was in the 3rd season. You haven't seen, Sean, where they go into Bruce Wayne's mind, have you?
No, I don't think so.
Oh my god, it was so funny. Well, when you all get there, we'll have to talk about it.
I will gladly have that conversation when we get there.
That show started off so strong, and not that it got weak, but like I think it was the first episode was the whole thing with the mentalist guy calling Wonder Woman the C word and just getting like blacklisted even among bad guys. They were just like, dude, what are you doing? It was just like that whole episode. I think it was the first episode. It might have been the second episode. It was early because it was when she was just trying to form her gang or whatever. But that whole episode freaking killed me.
The first episode was absolutely hysterical, and it's been solid ever since. But I feel like the first couple episodes have yet to be properly topped in the laughs department.
And you know what? I don't know if you watch. Do you guys watch Solar Opposites?
No.
It's basically. I don't know if it's. There's 2 guys that do Rick and Morty. I don't know if it's both of them or just one of them. Did this other cartoon series for Hulu, and it kind of feels like all the crap they left on the cutting room floor from Rick and Morty. They were like, let's shove this into another cartoon. It's like Rick and Morty's better, but it's got a similar feel. Some of the character voices are the same, like so they got some of the same voice actors. It really just feels like what we decided not to use, but we were shooting around the room. And why was I saying this? Oh, because 1 or 2 of the storylines, it's a ridiculous cartoon, like Harley Quinn, right? But I was going to say about the Harley Quinn is like every now and then I'm like, this show made me care about Kite Man. How did that happen? Right? You were like, you felt for him at times. You were like,
yeah.
I think it's even more in season 2. You're like, dude, I feel for Kite Man. There's a little throb in my heart. You feel it, and then that's there, and you're like, this is a ridiculous cartoon. Solar Opposites did such an amazing job of that. It's a funny cartoon. It's worth the watch. You'll laugh a bunch, and most of the time, that's all it is. There's this one episode where they get off on a tangent that doesn't even have the main characters, um, and they just go on this long tangent. The whole episode is just this tangent about these other people, and like it's funny at first, and then at one point, like there's this animal that you care about, and the animal dies in this epic tragic way, and like Jacqueline was crying. Like, how did this stupid, ridiculous cartoon do that? How did it sneak up and get actual emotion in there when you know you're watching something so ridiculous? Now, crying might have been a little over the top, but it wasn't. She wasn't crazy. It was a heartfelt scene. It was like, no, I get it.
Harley Quinn's definitely done. I mean, like when I don't know, all the stuff was going down between Harley and Ivy towards the end of season one. I was like, oh,
You felt it.
I feel bad about this. That's sad, and that's wonderful. So I guess we should probably talk about movie stuff.
Eh.
If you insist.
Because I mean, I love talking. I'll talk TV all day long, but I have to do it again next week when we record our TV
Oh
podcast.
my God, I have a movie thing I want to talk about.
I got a
Oh,
movie
so
thing I
do I.
want
But
to
you
talk
go
about.
first.
Okay. Listen,
It's good that we have a movie podcast.
can we? Yeah, we have a movie podcast. We should probably talk about movie things. Listen, can we have a segment in this where I talk directly to Hollywood and I try to convince them that my idea is good? Like, is that a thing that we can do week to week?
Absolutely. What are we calling it?
Who's Hollywood? Am I Hollywood? And if I'm Hollywood, should I be trying to do the voice of the sidekick character from the 1980s movie Mannequin? Because that could get a little racist.
What's the,
Just saying.
wait? Is there a sidekick character named Hollywood?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Where did you think I was going with this?
I don't know. I mean, I figured you could just kind of like talk fast like a 1920s newsman, and it would still,
I could try to do that too. That would be less racist because he was like a flamboyant black man, and I just think that like his character was bordering on the offensive. And if I try to do it, I don't know.
This is coming back to
I
me.
don't know.
Right. That guy in Mannequin. Okay. No, every now and then I have an idea that I'm like, I need to let somebody in the business know this. So I can only assume that multiple people in the industry are listening to our highly revered podcast. So
Again, it's
Obviously.
primarily just city planners, as we've already established. But you can give it a go.
This
Maybe
will-
somebody who's a city planner in Hollywood and has a connection.
right, this will be me.
Absolutely need to give it a go. We need to come up with a name. And like
Paul's
a little
Corner.
like and now it's time for Paul Talks Hollywood. We'll have a little theme
The
song.
Hollywood
whatever.
breakdown.
Right. All right. Well,
The Hollywood address.
the
Nice.
Hollywood address. All right. I was gonna say, actual name TBD, but if we got to land on that now, let's do it. The Hollywood
No,
address.
Well,
actual
working
name
title.
TBD is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and now it's time for actual name TBD.
Okay. All right.
Do-do-do-do-do-do.
So there's two things that sort of are leading me to this thing that I feel like needs to happen, right? So one thing is, and let me look up the guy's name because I don't want to butcher it and make a mess. No. Why don't I just look up Goonies?
Like, because that's
Yeah.
gonna help you get to where you were trying to get to, or just because F it, I like looking up Goonies.
That's why. Kihei Kwan? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, I think so.
Kihei Kwan. So like, this guy's having a renaissance, right? Like in when he was popular in the 80s, when he was Short Round in Temple of Doom, and when he was Data in the Goonies, right? Like, I guess it was just the mid 80s, and it was just like, we need a young Asian boy. Like, he's the guy. Like, if you're gonna make a movie, you need a young Asian boy. He's your go-to guy, right? But then it seemed like for years, like I guess he was sort of typecast into certain things, or whatever. I guess he had a hard time getting roles, but like now he's back and better than ever, man. Like, I don't know if you saw
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. Did you see it?
Not yet. It's on our list.
So good. He's really good in it, right? And then I think it was like maybe 2 months ago or so, there was the announcements from D23, and they had all the panels of all the upcoming Marvel shows come out, and you know they did talks on stage and stuff, and like he's cast in Loki season 2.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, which, you know, I mean, like of these Disney shows, like Loki is one of the better ones, and
I think they're all great, but I think Loki was clearly the best, right?
Like,
it was so good.
Loki seems to have
Yeah,
a buzz that some of the other ones don't have. You know, like I agree. I think they're all good, but like as far as like pop culture and mass appeal, it seems like everybody's like all in on that Loki show. Which it was great. It was clearly great. But like I'm excited to see him in the second season. He was really great in Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? So that's one thing, right? Ki Hei Kwan is having a renaissance, and like, you know, like if you're looking to make a movie, like get him in the movie right now, right? Like, cause like he's it, right? So that's one thing, right? The other thing is I saw that again, I think it was like a month or two ago, but they just wrapped filming on Indiana Jones Part 5, right? Did you guys see that?
Did they wrap filming? Or
I
start
had no idea.
No, I think they wrapped filming and they're in post-production now, so it's supposed to come out.
I missed that. I knew there was news on it, and I know that there was a picture of him with Harrison Ford. But
Of who with Harrison Ford?
Short Round.
Oh, I don't think he's in it, is he?
No, it was like at the D23, the two of them hung out together, and there was a picture of them, you know, together. Like, hey, look, it's Harrison Ford and him, and they're near each other. Like,
Right.
It wasn't for the movie. It was just like these two people are near each other. Isn't that awesome?
Right, like Harrison Ford was there for some sort of Star Wars thing, and he was there for the Loki thing, and somebody just happened to get a picture, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, the Indiana Jones 5, I don't know much about it, right? I know that John Rhys Davies is in it, you know. Our favorite King Solomon's Mine actor, John Rhys Davies. You know, they brought him back into the fold as Sala, and I know some of the other actors that are in it. But like, I guess there's not much out about the plot right now, right? So, here's what I'm saying to Hollywood, right? Stop what you're doing. Stop editing the movie. Just like stop. Get some people on the phone. Like, I promise you, it doesn't matter what the story is. This will work. My idea will work, right? Here's who you got to get on the phone. You got to get Harrison Ford on the phone. You're going to have to get John Rhys Davies on the phone. And Ki Hei Kwan, right? So let's get all these guys on the phone. Get everybody to come back and film a mid-credit scene and an end-credit scene, right? I'm assuming these movies don't have them, but like all, you know, all franchise movies that come out at this point have a you know, a mid-credit scene and an end-credit scene. I can't see why Indiana Jones should be any different than, you know, Marvel or Fast and the Furious or whatever, right? Let's film these scenes, right? So I think the mid-credit scene needs to be Harrison Ford and John Rhys Davies, and you know, John Rhys Davies will have to be like, Indy, the thing that you were trying to get, you know, I don't know, like, I'm sure that there was like some artifact that he was after in this movie, right? Like, you know, turns out that bad guy, whoever the bad guy is of the movie, that he was working for someone, you know, and then Harrison Ford can be like, who is he working with, you know, and then like John Rhys Davies could be like, you know, we don't know, but you have to go to, and then like fill in like place, right? Like Jabib, I don't know, right? Like
Alexandretta.
Yeah, whatever, right? Some distant place, right? And we could even see the plane on the map leave the place and like go to the other place, or like a boat or whatever, right? So like that's the mid-credit scene, right? He's gonna have to learn that whoever he was up against and trying to take back an artifact from in this movie was actually working for somebody else, right? And then the end credit scene is going to be it's going to be like almost like the mirror image of that like ship scene in Last Crusade, right? Where like he goes up against the guy that like young him stole the cross from, in the beginning of the movie, right? When
Across Coronado, yeah.
when he was River Phoenix, right? And then like, you know,
Guy
that
says you should be in a museum. That guy on the boat, right?
yeah, and that guy that like gave him his hat, right? Like he took that hat from that guy, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's gonna look like that, right? Where like there's a ship and it's in shadows and like, you know, the hat like flies off his head and like this like character in shadows grabs the hat, you know, and then he can be like, you know, why'd you do it? Why'd you take it? That belongs in a museum, you know? And then character steps out of the shadows. We see who it is. It's Short Round. He goes, one reason, fortune and glory, Dr. Jones. Fortune and glory, right? And then Short Round is the villain in Indiana Jones 6. Boom.
I love it. He's got to take his hat before he has his goons throw him over the ship. Right? You're gonna kill your predecessor. You'd steal his hat first.
Well, Indy will get away somehow, but like,
Well, if he gets thrown over the side of a ship, you assume he's dead, but you don't have to die from that. If he didn't die from the nuclear blast.
Right. I mean, he fell off the ship into a fridge and he's fine.
sailing in a sea of fridges.
You know what? That's the fridge scene was still more believable than the monkeys. But I love your end credit scene. Hollywood, get on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Doesn't matter what the
Fire
movie's
this
about. This idea will work, and it will set up a movie with Short Round as the villain. Success.
I like the idea of making Short Round into a villain. I don't know who, like, because Harrison Ford was like, "This is it. I'm done. This is the last Indiana Jones. I can't do this shit anymore."
Well, once he listens to this podcast and hears this idea, he's gonna change his mind.
He's gonna be pretty busy as a General Ross going forward.
Oh, that's right. I did read that.
I can't believe they're. I can't believe that they're replacing him. I thought they were gonna. They're recasting William Hurt. I thought they were gonna just pick somebody else, but like just come up with a different character that's basically the same character, just not actually replacing Thaddeus Ross. But here we are.
Talk to me like I'm stupid. Who are we talking
about? William Hurt, who played General Ross in the MCU.
Oh.
Yeah, he died.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that actor died, and they're replacing him with Harrison Ford, which seems like on paper, like, yeah, okay, him as Ross, that's a good play. I like that, except the fact that he's fucking ancient.
Wait, like, I'm sorry.
I don't know that I do like it.
Didn't we? Am I having deja vu? Didn't we have this same conversation like 3 or 4 months ago? Because I remember being like, yeah, William Hurt, who is different than John Hurt, who is different than John Hurd. And then I was like, and it doesn't matter because all 3 of them are dead now. like if you were confused as to, you know, which one was in Home Alone, which one was the dad in Hellboy, and which one was General Ross, doesn't matter because now they're all dead. So
that does sound familiar to me. But anyway, Harrison Ford's going to take over the role of General Ross.
Harrison Ford's too likable.
He's too
likable. Don't you always like him? I always like Harrison Ford.
Right. Yeah.
I don't like General Ross. He's occasionally, you know, like you could make arguments in favor of him. I get it, but in general,
I feel like Harrison Ford can pull off the grumpy, unlikable guy, and I just have to assume they're going to eventually wind up with Red Hulk, and he's just going to sit back and voice him instead of actually having to act in person. So that's the only thing I can think of.
And that's how good the illusion on the MCU movies are. My next point was going to be, plus, if they go with the Red Hulk storyline, then Harrison Ford's got to deal with that. That's got to be as bad as Indiana Jones. But you're right. But why would I say that? Doesn't make any sense. He's not even on the screen.
Exactly.
I don't know how any of this works. It's not guys in costumes. And even if it was, it wouldn't be him in a costume. It'd be Lou Ferrigno. So I don't know what I was thinking.
He could do that role over the phone. It'd be fine.
Yeah, I guess they would have somebody else do the motion capture.
Yeah, of course. Why? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see Harrison Ford doing that. I don't see any world into which that's happening.
Are they?
Yeah.
And again, I have no idea. So Hulk looks like Ruffalo. So like, does he
Yeah.
act all those parts and they film his face, or like they just scan his face once and it's just animated?
I believe he motion captures the performance and then they just animate him. So
Okay.
like they have like the Hulk model built and then he does the performance and all the sensors all over him and his face translates to the CG model and then they basically just animate him.
Right, right, right. Okay.
But I imagine that won't be the case with Harrison Ford.
Right, right, right. Yeah, you could have anybody come in there and do it.
That's
All
right. We have a
right.
movie podcast, people. We know things.
Yeah,
God.
things.
All right,
So Sean, you said you had a movie thing you wanted to talk about.
it's sure. You know, I think I had multiple movie things to talk about. Yeah, you know what? I did. Here's a couple. One we just went and saw the new Jay and Silent Bob movie, and I really enjoyed it. But I'll say
Clerks
this:
3?
Clerks 3. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my thing. I was going to talk
Huh.
about that.
Did you went and saw it?
Oh, we saw it here at home.
Okay. Uh, I loved it, but I will say this about it: uh, you you have to love those movies. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like the last two or three have just been love letters to the series itself and kind of fan service, which I am a fan. And again, thank you for the service. But it certainly there's no attempt anymore uh, to broaden to broaden your viewership, which is probably why it's getting harder and harder to watch these movies. Like this one, like when it first came out a few weeks ago, the closest theater was in Pennsylvania, and
Mm.
like it was only at like three or four theaters that we could find anywhere near us. And I was like, let's we'll give it a week or two, see, and now see if it pops up closer to us. And now those theaters don't have it anymore, and they must like sent their copies, which is weird because I think it's digital. But whatever, they don't have them anymore. But now two or three different ones have, and finally the one near us got it. I was like, all right, let's go see it. So like, of course your viewership's getting smaller as you indicate in your movie. People age and die, and the you're not. I don't know. It's not expanding. Like Clerks to Mallrats, those are two very different movies. And then you go to Chasing Amy and Dogma, and all four of those movies are very different while still incorporating some of these core characters, right? At least in my opinion, they're very different. I think the type of humor between Clerks and Mallrats is very different. And then Dogma is its own thing. So is Chasing Amy. But now it's just like, I feel like he's narrowing and narrowing, right? I mean, I'm still in that vein, but by God, he's going to run out of viewers.
And I don't think he necessarily cares. I
Okay.
will say that, all right, so Jay and Silent Bob reboot was 100% fan service of the entire Askew universe, as it were.
Sure.
Clerks 3 felt more like you didn't need to see the rest of them. You just needed to see Clerks and Clerks 2. Because it was very much a sequel to those two movies in specific.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
it wasn't really like you didn't need to see Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back or Dogma or anything like that. You just needed to see Clerks 1 and 2. So to that respect, that I think is fine. Right? This is Clerks 3, so naturally it's a sequel to Clerks 1 and 2. It doesn't have to be something that's going to broaden the horizons. You're closing this thing out. I did find it amusing that they found more than one moment to actually reference the cartoon in there, which was great because I freaking love the Clerks cartoon, which has now come up on this show twice, which is wonderful. Yeah, I loved it. I did think was it Brian O'Halloran? Is that Dante?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
There's
O'Halloran sounds right.
there was the first scene where he's at the great, like I thought that the story was so sad. Like I did not really see it being that sad coming, like Dante's whole entire situation there, but when he was at the grave site and he was, doing the whole crying bit and everything, it was really remarkable how much better of an actor uh God, why can't I think of her name?
Oh, Dawson or Rosario Dawson.
Rosario Dawson. Yeah, like she did that whole scene effortless, and like this was the most acting I've ever seen Brian O'Halloran do. Right, like this is the most actual emotional investment we've ever seen out of Dante, outside of anger. But like it was really obvious how much better of an actor she is than him. Not that he was bad by any stretch, but it was like it seemed slightly less natural and everything so friggin' effortless for Rosario Dawson.
Well,
But
these were all people that were Kevin Smith's friends that he cast in this, movie that he like financed on credit cards while he was learning how to make an independent film.
absolutely, and they mentioned. I mean, did you see this, Paul?
No, I haven't seen the new one.
Oh well, I won't spoil anything.
Yeah, you're like
else,
talking
like,
about big plot points, and I'm like, la 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 la.
No, he really hasn't talked about any big plot points.
I know
Yeah.
there's a grave.
There is definitely.
You find
a
that out in
grave
the first
and
5
there's sadness.
seconds,
Yeah,
right? First 7 seconds. So I mean,
yeah, something like that. Oh
Yeah.
God, that was just heartbreaking right at the beginning.
right.
But yeah, it's there's he's got he has to do a lot more acting in this, and I was very impressed with where it went. It did seem like, yeah, it was very much reliant on having seen Clerks 1 and 2. Like there's
having-
nothing for anyone who hasn't seen Clerks 1 and
and
2.
having a special place in your heart for them, which I absolutely do. So again,
Yeah,
I loved this movie.
same here. Yeah.
Is it?
If you were lukewarm on the first two, don't bother. I mean, it's fair for a third one. If you didn't like the first two, you didn't see them.
Is it on any of the streaming stuff, or is it just in movie theaters?
I saw it in the theater,
I think
but
it's
I think
on Vudu. Is that what it's on? It is, I'm pretty sure it's on a streaming service. I caught it through our various means, but I'm pretty sure there is a streaming way of, and a legit streaming way of grabbing it right now as well.
All right.
It is. It's pretty good, and it's I really liked the story. It's been a while since I've seen Clerks 2, so there were some details of it that I was like, oh right, okay. But the references to the Clerks animated series were very.
I only caught one of the references, which did put a smile on my face. It wasn't. Oh my God, bears driving. How can that be? Which God, I quote that all the time, and it doesn't ever fit in. Like I just force that into situations because God, what a great line. What was I going to say about the so? Oh, it's such a dramatic difference in tone or feel from the second one, because the second one is one of the most uplifting films ever, right? I mean, like, I just walk away from that movie happy,
Yeah, same here.
right? I mean, like, that movie is so upbeat and just, you know, I don't know about maybe carefree. It's just so light and easy. Um, the first one isn't, but even the first one's not this dark. The first one's not necessarily a downer. I mean, I guess it's a little life affirming towards the end, but it's certainly middle of the road. And then the second one's such an up note, and then this one's it's a down note.
Maybe I need to revisit these before I see this new one because I don't know that I could tell you anything about the second one. I mean, I remember the first one very clearly, and I think it was because it was like one of these life-changing things, right? Like I think we were in like 4th or 5th grade when that movie came out, when Clerks came out. And I remember sleeping over Matt Voss's house, and like, you were allowed to go to the video store. Everybody's going to go to the video store on the Friday night, and we're going to walk around and see what we can find. And you get a new movie, and then you get an old movie for 99 cents or whatever. And I think like, we said to his mom like, can we see this? Like, can we? And she read the box and everything. I was like, yeah, I guess so. And then it was one of those things where like parents went to bed, and then we get to like hang out in the living room and watch movies till late. And like we were like, holy crap, because like first of all, we had never seen a movie where like every other word was fuck, so like that blew our little 5th grade minds right there.
It was 1994,
Ah,
so we must have been we graduated in 99. Probably more like 8th grade,
are
right?
you making me
12 minus
do? Are
5,
you making me
7.
do math here?
Like seventh grade,
Okay.
7th, 6th. It could have been 6th. It was the end. It was the summer after 6, right? 6 into
But
7.
if we were seeing it on video,
I don't
that
know.
Oh, if
must
you've
have
seen it,
been.
I feel like me and Matt were hanging out pretty hard in like fourth and fifth grade, maybe sixth grade. But I'll say fourth, fifth, and sixth. Um, I mean, I guess it could have been seventh. I don't know, but yeah, somewhere in that stretch. I thought it was like earlier than middle school, um, but yeah, yeah, like all the, certainly the fact that there was so much cursing in the movie, and then like all the kind of like pop culture stuff that was so effortlessly woven into it, where they're talking about the contractors on the Death Star, like just the fact that these things that were kind of in the back of our consciousness became like conversation pieces in a movie where like it had to really be about the dialogue because it was an independent film that was supposed to look like a security cam. But like I remember we were just blown away by it, and then the next day we were like, we're gonna watch it again. Like, let's watch it again. We don't have to bring it back until like until this evening or until Sunday or whatever. Let's watch it again. And then like his mom called us and she's like, "What are you watching?"
Well, I thought
uh,
Clerks 3 was great. I would like to watch Clerks 2 again, just to kind of I mean, I really enjoyed that movie. I love that movie. Karen and I did the dance from that movie at our freaking wedding reception, for crying out loud. But
which was brilliant.
thank you. That was a hoot. It's it. I had a similar experience with Clerks 1. I think I watched it with Adam Zels for the first time. I think that was who I was with when I first saw that one, and it was like, wow, I'd never seen anything quite like it. And yeah, Clerks 3 was a pretty interesting way of ending this whole Clerks saga. And Sean, you stuck around through the credits, right?
Yep, yep. I don't think it's a spoiler to talk about that in general.
Yeah, just the I mean, I don't want to say what it is because I don't think Paul knows really what this movie's about, but it's not a post-credit scene. Just towards the end of the credits, Kevin Smith talks about what his original plan for the last shot of the movie was, but he didn't want to include it in the movie because he thought that what actually ended the movie was more poignant, but he wanted to still give a story about what happened to the characters afterwards. And I thought that was really sweet.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And that guy is a hell of a storyteller, so um, you know, that's a cool approach. It's a cool way to do it.
Yeah, it was a good pick. I was really glad that I watched it. I'm really glad it exists. Um, I think it's about time to. I mean, I think it's about time to wrap it up. Honestly, like I'm. It seems to be that's where this is. Like I don't imagine they're gonna do a Mallrats 2 or anything like that. After Jay and Silent Bob reboot, I kind of think this is like the ultimate cap on the whole View Askew universe thing that they set up there.
Well, he's been saying for years that he's gonna stop directing movies. At a certain point, and I think it was when he sort of ventured into some of the like that horror sort of franchise that he had, which some of that
Right.
stuff went really well for him, but I think some of it got torn apart. And I think he was like, yeah, I don't need to do this. Like I've shown that I can do this, and like he kind of has said like he can get really zen about directing movies and just like that it's um it's habitual for him now. This story piece goes there, this goes there. That he's almost like Iron Man swiping that stuff away. Like here's what we need, here's what we don't need. And he's like, I know how to do this. He's like, maybe I'll just maybe like this podcast thing is my career now or whatever. But then he keeps it's like he keeps making one more. Like, well, just one more movie. So
Well, I think that just at least from this one, I'm pretty sure that came from a very specific inspiration. It was like, I have this idea, I want to film this, and like when you see this movie, it's pretty obvious what
Yeah.
inspired him to do this movie. Like from what was happening in his life when he decided to actually make this movie happen. Then and I'm cool with that. Like if he only wants to tell stories when he's inspired to tell them. Like so, nothing about this is And I guess that's kind of the cool thing about it is nothing about this or the Jay and Silent Bob reboot were cash grabs because he's not making it. He's just making it for the fans. He's literally just making it because he has a goofy story to tell to the people who already like this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So none of it feels cash grabby. It all feels like I'm doing this because I have a reason to do it. And
I can't see there being any cash involved. There's only it's like
right?
3 theaters in like a 50-mile radius playing the thing. And when me and Jacqueline went the other night, there was literally we bought our tickets at the you go up to the kiosk and you pick your seats or whatever. We walked in when we bought our tickets. There was 2 other tickets sold. We walked in. There was 3 people in there. So one of those people snuck in, and that was it the whole time. It was just the 5 of us. So there's no. I don't think he's making any money on them though.
No, I don't think so either.
Did you guys watch? And this was like at the beginning of the pandemic. Like this was back in the like don't leave your house, hide under a blanket. Like stay there till it's over days. But there was, I think it was on TBS, and again, this was when like no one was allowed to meet and there wasn't a lot of programming being made. But I think it was called I don't know, like show of shows or contest of contests. The thing where the celebrity show off, maybe that's what it was called, where the celebrities like sort of like made the content and entered it into the contest, and they would see who would win every week.
No.
Nope.
So it was like Mayim Bialik hosted it, and like I literally think it was just her in an empty studio and maybe like in front of a green screen and maybe like a camera op behind some wall in a booth or something where he could like operate the camera from a distance or something. And then like everybody else participated via Zoom or via teleconference or whatever. And Kevin Smith was a contestant, and like Ja Rule and Jason Mraz and I'm trying to remember who else.
What were they making?
What?
What were they making?
Like you could make whatever you wanted, right? Like
Like food?
Tori Spelling kept making like I don't know, these sort of like throwback stories about like being on 90210, and like Jason Mraz would make like music videos and stuff. Ja Rule made a weird commercial for a Greek restaurant. But Kevin Smith decided he was going to make a sitcom week to week. He's like I never made a sitcom before, and he's like, sure as shit nobody's going to hire me to make a sitcom. So he's like, I figure this is what I'm going to do. And like he literally made a sitcom with like him and his family, and it was about his daughter's boyfriend moving in. Like the daughter's boyfriend moves in with them, and then the pandemic happens and they're stuck with him. And it was one of those like like we can't get along, the dad and the like son-in-law to be or whatever. And it was so funny. And it made me feel good to see like Kevin Smith brought into my home when we were stuck in that situation. Like if you can find it, you should watch it. It was funny.
Huh.
I'll look for that. He did make a sitcom. He made Reaper, didn't he? Am I crazy?
Maybe he directed a couple episodes, but I don't.
Yeah, he wasn't responsible for Reaper.
Oh, I thought he was.
He directed the pilot.
Oh, I thought he directed the whole thing. Okay.
No, he just directed the pilot. And I guess technically the Clerks cartoon was a sitcom. I just have to take something back. Apparently, Twilight of the Mallrats is in pre-production, according to IMDb.
That you know what? When you were saying that, I was like, I heard they were making a sequel to the Mallrats, but I heard that like a decade ago.
Yeah, I can't. There's
Like-
no information on it.
And then I think I remember hearing like it was set and they had like contracts to like film at some mall like just outside of Philly, and then like there was a production delay, and then they tore down the mall. Like whatever
Yeah,
mall it was got demoed because they were like, dude, it's a mall. We're done here.
And like Clerks 3 was rumored to be in production for ages and ages and ages and ages, and eventually got kind of shit canned until Kevin Smith a few years ago was like, okay, I have a new idea, rewrote the script from scratch, and convinced everybody to be involved in it.
uh, and when you say everybody, you mean everybody. They got everybody. But
Everybody living, yeah.
yeah, but oh, we were talking earlier about them being actors. None of them went on to like be actors, right? Like, I mean, I don't follow people's careers or anything, but like Randall's not in other movies, right? Like, I assume these people like Dante, they just have jobs, right? Like they must do something, right?
I feel like Brian O'Halloran did try to like be an actor. Um, let's see, Brian O'Halloran. He did a bunch of stuff.
Oh, did
Yeah,
he? Well, good for him.
I mean, not like it's just like bit parts here and there.
Right.
Not much out. Goodness, he did a voice on a Pokemon cartoon. Uh, wow, yeah, he's been all over the map. So he definitely put forth some effort. Jeff Anderson, Randall, I don't think he did much else. Yeah, no, he's done almost nothing.
He was always kind of my favorite part of it.
Yeah.
He did a voice on Clone Wars. That's amazing. He was a he was he voiced a Wookiee in an episode of the Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon.
He did make a
Oh,
good
that's
Wookiee noise
outstanding.
in the movie. Oh, what I was gonna say is the people in like Clerks primarily, those weren't actors; those were his friends, like we said. And like when you look at it, I think they did good. Like I think Randall's a good actor. Like I don't think that was his job in life. I think he went off and I don't know what the hell he did. Let's say that he was a restaurateur. Who knows? But like I, I never once was drawn out of the moment in any of the movies he was in because his acting was poor. You're right. When O'Halloran was had that scene with Rosario Dawson in this one, it it did seem effortless for her because you kind of could tell how much effort he was putting in. But it was highly emotional and he got it across and it wasn't terrible. And
Yeah,
other
no,
than
he was successful. Just it was you could tell that he was putting in some work,
right,
and she was not.
right. But she's like a big name actress who does a lot of stuff.
Yeah, she is a real professional.
And I was gonna say, I assume he had another like I assume he's I don't know a pipe fitter. I don't know what he does. He's got to have a job, right? Like I don't think he's making enough off the Kevin Smith movie every 7 or 8 years to survive, right?
He's got a lot of credits, but yeah, it doesn't look like anything big. Most
So
of it I've never even heard of
I'm
before.
sure he does something, and then I'm sure he also goes to these conventions and signs a bunch of stuff and makes some
and
money.
host pie eating contests in the woods like last year, but
Exactly.
I don't think I don't even know if he was there this year. I just went to it and I didn't even see the pie eating contest. It got a little hectic. The All right, we're almost an hour in. I still have two more movie things before we get to our movie thing.
Oh
One,
Jesus!
I was going to mention the Halloween thing. Me and Jacqueline went as the people from True Romance. If you guys didn't see pictures of that, I'm pretty proud of us. It was pretty solid costume.
Well done.
Uh,
Well done.
and then the third thing, I just watched the last of the Halloween movies. The new trilogy came out, and I'm assuming
Oh
you guys
yeah.
didn't see that.
No,
I've never seen any Halloween movies. They've never really interested me, but this one's apparently rather divisive.
So it was certainly better than the bad Halloween movies. Like this is Halloween number like what are we at here? Like 9, I think. 9 or 10 or 11. God, there's a lot of them now.
Are
But
they trying to get to 31? Is that the plan?
um, they they did a lot of things good, right? So these last three, this was the third of the last three that they did. Like was like a trilogy within the series. The trilogy itself was pretty well done. They learned from their mistakes. They did a lot of things very right with the character. Um, they got away from the overly corny, the overly ridiculous, especially the first two. They made it a good good solid Halloween. The first one was great because of the solid scares. It wasn't special effects driven like Freddy Krueger or comedy driven with the quips like Freddy Krueger, and it wasn't necessarily as gore driven as like a Friday the 13th. There's a lot of subtle scares, right? Which I appreciate a lot in that first Halloween movie. It's really, if you should go watch the first Halloween movie, is so good. Um, so they got back to some of those. They redeemed the character a lot, like because you heard me rant about him as far as
I was
like.
gonna say this is the one. Mike Myers is the one that you said is the worst movie monster ever.
Yeah, because he just couldn't kill the girl for like 3 movies, and then he tried to kill the little 7-year-old, and he couldn't do that for 2 movies. So then he tried to kill the infant, and he couldn't do that. And teenage Paul Rudd, stopped him, and it was just the whole thing was terrible. Um, these movies fixed that a little bit. They did better, or at least the first two did, and the third one had the same feel. You could tell there was the same writer, same director. Everything was going the same way.
Oh, it's the 13th movie.
Oh, nice. Uh, the But then they shoehorned in this storyline that felt like they were trying to reach back and tie in maybe like the fourth or fifth movie where there was like some magic powers where he could transfer his evil through his eyes to another person. That didn't make any sense then, and it didn't make any sense now. Um, and then like not to spoil. I don't think I'm spoiling this for anybody. It's early in the movie. I'm not giving anything away. It's fine. They try to work that in, and I just think it was they did it well for what they were trying to do, but it was just, I don't know. You gave up a lot of usable real estate on some sort of nonsense that doesn't quite fit in with what made the franchise great. I know it was part of the franchise, but it was more the part of the franchise that made people grow. Um, so other than that bad decision, I did enjoy the movie, but I don't know. I don't know. Pull it together. Pull it together, Hollywood.
Apparently, you want to talk about something that goes wacky out of order. Apparently, the chronological order to watch the Halloween movies is Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, Halloween 5. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting these awesome subtitles. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers.
Is that 6?
Halloween, I don't know, just that was 1995. There's no
Okay.
number on that one. Halloween H2O, 20 years later. Halloween Resurrection, 2002. Halloween 2018. Halloween Kills, 2021. Halloween 2007. Halloween 2, 2009. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, 1982. And then Halloween Ends. What the hell?
Halloween ends. So the number 3, the season of the witch one, that one I'm sure I ranted about it last time, but that's the one where the he becomes a fictitious character. He's not even real. He's not in the movie, but he is in the movie a little bit. But oh god, I don't know what happened there. It was just a hard turn. They didn't know where they were going, and they realized how far off the road they were with Halloween 4, and they were like, "Oh God, turn the wheel around. Just get. Where did we go? What happened? What happened?" Oh,
All right, now I know we've got to talk about our main movie thing, but I just remembered something else movie related that happened.
Why
that
start
I
now?
really want to get your opinion on. Exactly. No, I just remembered something I wanted your opinion on. Did you guys see the trailer for the Super Mario Brothers movie?
Yes.
no, wait, did I? Who plays Super Mario? Give me a little something to like sink
Chris
my brain
Pratt.
hooks into.
Chris Pratt's gonna be Mario.
Oh yeah. I did see a little bit. Yeah. I
What did
know.
you guys think?
Well,
Like, I don't even know if you guys have an opinion on it. I obviously, in the world that I'm in, it was a pretty big conversation. But as people who aren't obsessed with the world of video games,
what did
you
your
guys
son
think?
say about it?
Well, amusingly enough, we knew that the trailer was coming, and I got the Little Golden Book adaptation of the Bob Hoskins movie off eBay. And I read that to him, and he was just like, "What? What?" He
What
was so
happened?
confused by it. Like, what happened? This doesn't make any sense. This is
It
insane.
sounds like a good way to
And
give your kid nightmares.
he really wants to see the movie now because, like, he's like, I have to see this. I have to see this.
Sounds
I
like
want
your
to pick
kid's
it
got
for
a good.
movie night.
He's got a good head on his shoulders because I watched that movie multiple times and still come out of it going, "What?
It
What?
is amazing. So the
What?"
first thing he said after we watched the trailer was, "Well, that looks a lot better than the live action."
It's amazing.
He's 100% right. No, John thinks it looks awesome. He's super excited for it.
Yeah, Nate is excited about it. He wants to see it. To be honest with you, I don't think I have strong opinions. I mean, like, I think it looks cool. The trailer looked, the trailer looked really slick, and I think they included some cool stuff in the trailer. The like animation and the way, I don't know, the computer animation and the way that the like light hits these digital things and kind of makes them look real and gives them shape is, it it improves with every movie. And like I kind of watched the trailer and was like, oh, that's kind of cool looking. The way the mushrooms looked and the all the things like that. But yeah, I don't know, like it didn't show me enough for me to know how Super Mario Brothers it would really feel. And um and then
Yeah, it
Chris,
was really a Bowser trailer.
yeah.
I mean, that's most of it was the whole Bowser thing.
And then, of course, Chris Pratt, I can't say he will be a bad Mario, but I think Mario is so synonymous in my head with "it's a me," like
Yeah.
With Charles Martinet, yeah.
yeah. So, I don't know. I have no idea.
So all these animated movies, my opinions on them, I stopped having opinions on them because I see, yeah, I stopped having opinions on them based on trailers because unlike movie trailers in general that I now hate because they tell me the whole damn movie. Like I'm pretty sure I know this whole Black Panther movie and I saw like 2 trailers, but you put everything most of the time in sequence. So you're showing me big plot points in sequence. Well, guess what? I can fill in the in between pretty accurately most of the time. So I hate that. But with the animated ones, I really don't get a good feel for them. And then I go and, sometimes I'll watch them. And sometimes it's, oh, this was exclusively a children's movie. This was not aimed at me, but they did a good job. Sometimes it's just a terrible movie. And sometimes it's surprisingly great. I thought the Lego movie was going to be terrible based on the trailer. I had no desire to see it, didn't see it when it came out. That movie's freaking wonderful. That first Lego movie, I
Yeah,
absolutely loved it.
it was very good.
It was absolutely enjoyable, wonderful movie. Um, the Pixar stuff, sometimes I find it boring. Sometimes it's aimed at kids. Other times, like Up was a freaking amazing. Again, I had no desire to go see it. Didn't look interesting to me at all. It was phenomenal. And then every now and then there'll be one I'll go and see. I'm like, oh, this looks good. Let's go see that. And I go and watch it. I'm like, nope, this was nonsense. So that with the animated films, I feel like the trailers are better at not ruining everything. But I know that my opinion based on that whatever I saw 60 seconds of that Mario thing means nothing. Like that movie could be absolute trash or it could be a gem, and I just have no idea. I do the Chris Pratt voice. I don't know. My first instinct is no, but
Yeah, this was really interesting from you know, the perspective of folks in the video game world. He posted a couple of times that he's been working super hard on the Mario voice, and I think the quote was, "It's unlike anything you've ever heard in the Mario universe." And I guess he's not wrong because Chris Pratt has never been in the Mario universe.
Right.
Because he just sounded like Chris Pratt. There was maybe a slight accent going in there. Um, but then again, we only heard like 2 lines out of him. He barely said anything in the trailer. Like there was one half a sentence, and that was it. Everything else was Bowser talking, which yeah, the animation certainly looks several tiers above the schlock we usually get out of Illumination Studios. So that's making me happy. I love the way it looks. Like you said, Paul, I think it is a really good looking movie. I was really impressed with Jack Black's Bowser voice.
Oh, that was Jack Black. That's cool.
And like that's not Jack Black with a machine lowering his voice or anything. At Comic-Con when this trailer debuted, there's video of him just doing the voice, roasting the audience. Like he just did that voice, and it's kind of great. So that made me real happy. It does seem to have personality. I thought Toad was really funny in the trailer too. I'm cautiously optimistic, but the whole Chris Pratt as Mario thing, like, you're right. Charles Martinet is like the iconic Mario voice for most of the world. And there's a whole conversation about whether or not they should have had Charles Martinet do the voice of Mario in this movie. And like, that I'm on the fence about because like I've heard Charles Martinet do entire conversations as Mario before. And it's like, a little much for me, and I get that some people don't care. They just want to hear that voice coming out of Mario, but I feel like your general movie-going audience might have been a little annoyed by it by the end, but then again, Charles Martinet is an excellent voice actor. He's done a lot of great stuff that's not Mario, and like I feel like he could have done a pretty good Mario voice on his own, but then again, he's not the name draw that is Chris Pratt. But amusing to me is like when I was a kid, Captain Lou Albano was Mario.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
that was Mario's voice. He was, this deep voiced Italian plumber guy. And like then Super Mario 64 shows up and you hear, it's a me, Mario. And I know Charles Martinet, if anybody's listening, yes, Charles Martinet did technically do the Mario voice earlier than that. I think Mario teaches typing in a Mario pinball game, but the real debut was in Mario 64. There, done nerding on that.
No one's checking your nerd work right now.
But that changed Mario's voice to that. And Chris Pratt weirdly seems like a middle ground between Captain Lou and Charles Martinet's voice, which I think is pretty interesting. So, I don't know, that doesn't really fill me with all the confidence in the world for Mario himself. There was also a giant controversy about Mario's lack of an ass. Apparently that's a thing. And, it's noticeable when it's been pointed out to you that Mario's character model does not have a butt.
Well,
so
there's still time. They can just throw a digital butt in there.
Here's hoping. So I don't know. I want to get you guys' take on it because I know you guys aren't anywhere near in the ridiculous level of video game nerddom that I am, and I thought I'd get your opinions on this whole Mario movie thing.
Well, in my heart, Captain Lou Albano will always be Mario. And Sean, if you like the Lego movie, and you might actually sit down and watch animated movies because you don't have kids and you're not inundated with them, so you might actually be like, oh, like I want to watch that. If you like the Lego movie, the guys that directed the Lego movie also made the two Cloudy with a Chance of Meatball movies, which are very funny.
I did see the first Cloudy with a Chance of Meatball movie. I took that came out a long time ago, right? I was in like college or something. I was watching my godson. I took him to the movie theaters to see that. I think that was good.
I love that Mr. T is in that movie. It makes me so happy.
Oh God, I don't remember.
He was in the first Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Mr. T is the cop, the policeman.
Oh, all right.
But then he didn't come back for the second one for some reason, and then it's Terry Crews.
Well, he got too big. I mean, he's Mr. T.
Yeah.
His career really took off post 2010. So.
All right, you guys want to talk about this movie now?
Nope, I want to pack it up and go to bed.
Yeah, it's already 10:15. Well, I don't even know how much I'd really have to say about this. It was an interesting experience, but let's do the business. Quick Change is the movie we're here to talk about. Quick Change was released on July 13th, 1990. Was distributed by Warner Brothers. It was directed by Howard Franklin and Bill Murray and written by Howard Franklin based on the novel Quick Change by Jay Cronley. Howard Franklin's other directorial works include Larger Than Life and The Public Eye, and he was a writer on Romancing the Stone, The Man Who Knew Too Little, and more. I feel confident in assuming that we all know who Bill Murray is. The story stars Bill Murray, as well as Gina Davis, Randy Quaid, Jason Robards, and more. It tells the story of a group of people who try to rob a bank under the guise of a clown, and I wrote this script before having seen the movie, so that's all the detail I was willing to go into at the time. I watched this in my house with Greg and Karen. Greg came over to join us. We watched it through nefarious means, and I had a glass of chocolate milk. Greg had a coffee, I think, and a Kit Kat bar. You
go ahead, Paul.
Oh, I watched it on, I spent $3 or whatever from Apple to watch it. I didn't know we would be recording this week, and then everyone was like, "Hey, we doing this?" And I was like, "Oh, like that." At that point, that was my only recourse to be able to watch the movie. I didn't eat anything while I watched the movie because we had just had a lot of pizza.
So I watched the movie through non-nefarious means. I think we had to pay. Oh, we would have had to pay like $2.99, but she's always got like free money in Amazon for like I don't know why. They just like her. So we got it through there, and I don't think we ate anything while we watched it. Actually, I think I ate some cheap cookies. I didn't put any effort in because we had to train our dog who's out of control, so we had like this thing, and then I had a quick watch this movie afterwards. So I was like, "There's no time for anything. We're watching this movie." So yeah, no effort. I'm sorry. Oh, and a new non-alcoholic beer for midweek drinking that was terrible. So I'm not even going to mention it. It's like a new German Pilsnery thing out there. It's nonsense. Back to the brew dog. I thought you were going to say it was fine that we didn't put a lot of effort in because it feels like the people who made the movie didn't put a lot of effort in, and I would agree with that. It had a lot of good pieces, and it feels like with some effort, it could have been a great movie. Like there was talent, and the writing wasn't bad, and the plot points were all there, but like I don't know, everything was just fine. It was fine.
Yeah, all the pieces came together, but they didn't really. It's like I thought it was weird that I had never even heard of this movie before. I mean, considering who was in it, it just seemed like it's weird that this had never even come up. Like I didn't even remember seeing this in my video store. It was a complete non-entity to me. And after seeing the movie, you know, I chuckled a couple of times, but I could not tell you what I laughed at. Like I don't remember. I just watched it the other day and I don't remember it all that well.
I'm starting to wonder if I had never really seen it. Right? Because so we've feel like this is the second time in this episode we've revisited uh elementary school Paul. Because I think I probably saw this movie when I was like 11 or 12. Like that's my memory that like I saw it probably not not long after it came out, like when it was still newish, right? And it makes me wonder, did I really see it or did I just see the beginning, the bank robbery? Because that seemed to be the only thing that left an impression on me was the bank robbery. Like I remember that very vividly. Like I remember he was dressed as a clown, and I remember that the hostages that he lets go are in on it. And um as a kid, you don't know all the actors. You're not as keyed into pop culture. You're starting to know who some people are, but it's not like you have a big index of like which actors are in which movies. So like, as a 10-year-old or 11-year-old or 12-year-old, like I probably didn't know who Randy Quaid was or who Gina Davis was. Although like if you know who Randy Quaid is, he's like unmissable in this movie. Like
If you had seen Christmas Vacation at this point,
yeah. If you watch the trailer, you know he's in it, and then as soon as he starts talking in that bank, you're like, oh, that's Randy Quaid. Like, doesn't matter that he's in a quote unquote disguise. Gina Davis, I think, was a little better disguised. I think before she starts talking, when she's just kind of in the background, like in the vault, you almost don't know who it is, and then once she's in a scene, you like know who it is. But I think if you were aware of the cast of this movie, you already kind of knew the gimmick. Once the bank robbery scene starts playing out. But me, as a kid, I didn't know that. So then all of a sudden, when like I see how he did it, and they, each of the hostages had money strapped to them, and got out of the bank that way, I was like blown away. I thought it was the coolest thing. Like, I like that's the thing that stuck out to me about this movie was the bank robbery, and I don't remember anything else. So it makes me think was the rest of the movie just so forgettable that my childhood self has blocked it out? Or did I watch it, on PHL 17 at my grandma's house? Like, one movie ended and that came on and I was blown away by this. And then somebody was like, go out and play. Stop, get away from the TV. Like, I don't know which thing it was, but either way, that the bank robbery was kind of the highlight. And then it was kind of downhill from there.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like I know in my mind when we talked about this last time, I'm sure I said I think I've seen it. I know I've seen it before, but I kind of remember it being middle of the road. Uh, and when we watched it, I remembered the whole bank robbery scene. I remembered the whole gimmick. I remembered some of the jokes involved in the bank robbery scene. And then I didn't really remember the rest of the movie as we were going. Like one or two other things sort of maybe seemed familiar, but I think maybe same thing. I saw it as a kid, whatever, 12, 13, and maybe I just lost interest halfway through. You're sitting there, you're watching a movie, you're like, oh, Bill Murray movie I haven't seen. You throw that on, and then like you're like, man, I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna go. You know what? I got this video game sitting here because it it it's almost frustrating when you see like a B movie that has all the things it needs to be in a movie. There was lots of good scene setups, right? The bit with Hartman, like that should have been an A+ scene, and it wasn't. It like Phil Hartman's funny, and it was a good setup for a scene. So you've got talent. The writing wasn't terrible, the acting wasn't terrible, but it just didn't. Um, it's almost like they tried to do it in one take. It was like, all right, everybody just come in and give your best, and we'll just move on. It's like,
Yeah, it was just like, all right, Bill Murray, go Bill Murray. And like he didn't Bill Murray hard enough or whatever. Like it didn't turn out like that. It wasn't like Ghostbusters scenes where it's just like I'm reminded of like the Phil Hartman scene was where he was the neighbor guy that came with the gun, right?
right.
He wasn't the neighbor.
Neighbor. He was the new tenant who was taking
Right,
it
the
a
new
day
tenant
earlier.
yeah, right. Um and it just reminded me of the scene in Ghostbusters where he's talking to the reporter, not the reporter guy. That guy was a reporter in
The EPA guy, because he was a
yeah,
reporter in Die
yeah.
Hard.
This man has no
Dick.
dick.
Is that true?
And it seemed like they were just aiming for that, like just go do Bill Murray, and like it just didn't really stick. And Paul brought up that it just so happened after this movie I've never heard of, we decided to watch it, that it shows up in the news because Gina Davis was talking about her experience on it, and apparently not much of a surprise. Bill Murray was a bit of a shit to work with in the 80s to women, which I mean, I don't think that's exactly shocking to anyone, but I wonder how much of it came from a general a discomfort on set. Like when did this came out, and what was it? What did I say? 1990?
90.
So I didn't read the article or anything, so I don't know what the accusations are. But as far as I know, he's a shit to work with to everybody, right? Like Harold Ramos refused to work with him for years. I think there was like on-scene fights. Like as far as I know, he's kind of a dick to everyone.
So what seemed to be popping up in the news, oddly, right when we were about to do this episode, is that Bill Murray, the movie that he is currently working on is a movie called Being Mortal. He had a fine levied against him. Basically, there was a production assistant on set that complained about his behavior. I guess there was like COVID protocols, so people were masked and stuff, but like there was a scene in a bed or something, and I don't know what she was getting ready or standing in for somebody or something, and Bill Murray like straddled her and like, simulated like kissing her, like, through the masks, but like basically didn't uh didn't he thought he was just joking around, but like there was no permission asked. Like he kind of just he kind of just did what he wanted, and so she filed a complaint against him. And I don't know if this was like handled through their union or whether it was like a court matter or something, but he got he paid a pretty big fine. So like he's in the news because of that. And then Gina Davis was like, "Oh yeah, well, I mean, now that people are speaking up against this, like I had a pretty awful experience during Quick Change. That I guess because Bill Murray was also the director, he asked her to do some kind of uncomfortable stuff in the audition, and like she, I guess, was just kind of on edge the whole time because it was off to a bad start, even in the audition.
Yeah, I wonder if that played any.
Maybe that played a part in it. It didn't seem like she was uncomfortable in it. It just seemed like nobody was putting forth effort, except maybe Randy Quaid. But
He was, yeah, he was definitely putting work in.
Well, what was the deal with Randy Quaid? Like what was that character? He just kind of seemed like a sad, overgrown man baby. Like,
Yeah, and he had some sort of previous relationship with her. Like,
wait, why are you
did they
saying
just
that?
go to school together? Were
I
they
thought him and Bill
related to
Murray.
each other?
No, him and Bill Murray went to school together.
Right, but he also had some sort of previous relationship with her.
I mean, she almost
missed
act
that.
like she was a mother to him, almost like or like a sister figure. She's
Yeah,
like
I felt like there was some sort of relation there.
yeah, she was like consoling him. He act. He. I don't know why Randy Quaid sometimes plays these people that uh, you know I don't know are not all there. I guess that's the best way I could put it. But like he
Plays?
what?
Plays? Plays? I don't know that there's so much acting as there is reading lines for some people.
Valid point. That dude's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for sure.
But he's been in dramatic stuff where he had to not do this. I don't understand why the character was so much like a child. Like it was weird.
Yeah, it was definitely weird, but it does seem like an archetype of the time. I'm thinking of like, it seems like the whole not all there person that somebody like Bill Murray's character has to
Take
put
care
up
of.
with and or take care of.
Right.
Was
I
like
thought
a
he was there to
thing
kind of
back
make
then.
Bill Murray a little more likable. You're starting off your movie with bank robbers, right? Which,
Yeah.
despite our comments at the beginning of this podcast, usually that's the bad guy, right? So right away, you got to do a lot of work to redeem this character and put him in a position where the audience can root for him, or at least not be rooting against your protagonist, right? So you, I think they established that Bill Murray and Randy Quaid went to school together, it's clear Bill Murray doesn't need Randy Quaid's help. Randy Quaid honks the horn. Randy Quaid keeps making mistakes. Randy Quaid's the bumbling idiot through the whole thing, right? So, and Bill Murray seems to be very adept at life, right? So it's clear that this is a person that Bill Murray, at some point in their youth, uh, I don't know, took pity on or decided that like he was going to look out for because the world would take advantage of him. So I think he's there to soften our impression of the Bill Murray character. So we're like, yeah, this guy, he's looking out for who's he really taking advantage of? He's stealing from the rich bank people. He steals from the mobster guys. You know, so but he's looking out for this person who was probably would have just been left behind by society, right? So I think that's what that character was there about, and for obvious comic relief.
I think the reason why I feel like the movie was just okay, like it wasn't good or it wasn't bad, um, and like I think it's so funny that at this point in this podcast that we're having this problem. Like I feel like we haven't really talked about a movie that was just like a lot of times I think the best episodes of this we have is when we all have like sort of a different perspective on a movie and we're, hashing out the way that we saw it. And prior to this, I think we saw 3 really good movies. I know Sean was only like 50-50 on Pitch Perfect, but I was like 150 on it, so I feel like that kind of evens out. But like, Pitch Perfect, and then talking about the Office Space, the way it sort of shaped our work world, and The Natural that we kind of talked about, like what makes up an iconic sports movie, and then before that we had three really bad movies, it's fun to go like, what was that? Like, what was going on there? But like with this, it just felt right down the middle. And I think one of the reasons why I'm kind of like is because like I did think it was funny. There was a lot of stuff I laughed at. Now that being said, it wasn't like laugh out loud. It wasn't like slapping your knee and like rolling on the floor. It was just kind of like, it was a laugh. Like I think most of my reaction to that stuff was the stuff that was indicative of New York, and then the stuff that was like that then messed up their day, like made their situation worse. You would go, of course it did. Like the times that I went, of course that would happen. Like of course those guys would be taking down the signs and go, oh, we're not putting up the new signs till tomorrow. Like that's like it. Like those characters felt so New Yorky, or some of the stuff where like where the hot dog vendors are running to the the bank to sell hot dogs to the spectators. Like some of the stuff that was just like the weird, it could only happen in New York stuff made me laugh.
Bike jousters.
The bike joust was the best scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And you know
Bike
what?
joust was
But even the
fantastic.
bike joust scene, it's like I feel like better editing or just like a second take. Like I think it should have dragged out just a little longer because they stop, but it's pretty quick. They stop and they show you this thing, and it's pretty epic, right? You don't know what's happening at first, and then you kind of see it coming, and then the one guy gets taken down. I think they could have dragged that out like 2, 3 more seconds to really just make it feel so out of place in this movie. Because like they're on the run, they're on the lam, and you're going, and then all of a sudden they stop, and all three of them just stop. They just robbed a bank, and they just sit there, mouths agape, staring at this spectacle. Right, the kid ringing the bell on the church at the end, that was great, but I feel like it didn't quite sell. It was good, and I did laugh aloud, but I feel like it was so brilliant. I should have been rolling, and I was just laughing out loud. And then maybe this is the problem: the 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 only, and I quoted it at the beginning of the podcast here. The reaction line was, "It's bad luck to even see a thing like that," right? Which
Yeah.
was funny, and it made me laugh, and it's making you laugh. But like, I don't know. I feel they could have done more with that. Like, you just gave me an epic moment, right? You And then you followed it with a B plus joke. That was the best joke you had following this brilliant scene. Like, I don't know. I feel like we could have sold that better at that point.
I,
Just
I,
like the
I
Phil Hartman and who's the guy who robbed him. Like, these were good plot points. These were good opportunities for, eh, I don't know about either a great line or 2 or 3 really good lines, and we got like one. We got like one decent line from Bill Murray with the guy robbing him. We got one decent line from Randy Quaid with the joust. Should have been 2 or 3 decent lines or
the
one
crying on the
amazing one.
inside kind was definitely a solid line as
It
well.
was.
Yeah.
It was.
But it is a series of missed opportunities. There's this works really well on paper. Um, it could. I feel like the whole movie should have been. They should have leaned into the weirdness a little bit more.
Well,
Like,
I think one thing I think one thing that you're talking about some of the missed opportunities with I guess the jokes, as far as the guy that robs them, the bike joust, whatever, right? um I also think there were missed opportunities in tying it all up, because I think in a general sense the way that it all got laid out, made some degree of sense. I'm not sure that it totally makes sense that the cops found them by looking for two men and a woman, and then the thing about him jumping from the taxi cab, like it was kind of weird the way the cops zeroed in on them. But then once the mafia thing got involved, and then the Tony
the young
Shalhoub,
Stanley Tucci.
yes, once the Tooch got involved, and the Tony
What's
Shalhoub
the
taxi
Tooch and the
driver,
Shaloobs?
and like all that stuff, all those sort of missed opportunities. I think it made a clear path to that sort of near miss at the airport. But I think if the movie was better, like I think if the movie was better written or better conceived, like some of that stuff would have come back in a more meaningful way. Like the fact that the guy that robbed them took the watch that he gets at the bank, or like the Tooch gave him that envelope of money, and then he kind of gave it to that random guy, just so the guy.
Yeah, he just coughed that up, and that was the end of that.
Yeah, like if some other more awful characters could have gotten caught because they had things that tied them to the bank robbery. I think of some of those things where you're watching 3 or 4 different stories and they all masterfully come together at the end. Like some of the Guy Ritchie stuff. Like Snatch or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Like this thing had the seeds of that, and it didn't really bloom.
Yeah.
And I think it came from the general consensus that, okay, we've got this cast and we're just going to we don't need to put the effort into making this work because the cast is just going to take care of it. It's going to be funny enough with just the charisma of these actors. We don't need to think this thing out. And that's just my impression of it, because like Sean said, the whole thing just felt very low effort. It felt like we just got to have a basic premise that's kind of clever, get these people in the same place at the same time, and then just let the rest take care of itself. It's the underpants gnome, step 2, and then step 3 profit. But like they just skipped over step 2. Like step 2 would have been, you make this movie clever, do the work, put the writing in, and then don't just rely on them being funny and charismatic to carry the whole damn thing, because it wasn't quite enough. Like, it was such a forgettable movie, and I feel like it's crazy to think that when you think of the actors involved, like those 3 in particular, the main 3, and then you've got all these cameos from Phil Hartman and Stanley Tucci and Tony Shalhoub, but like that shouldn't be a forgettable movie, but it is absolutely a forgettable movie, and it's because you're right, Paul. They didn't put the writing wasn't there, and I can't shake the feeling that the idea was like, well, we're just not going to bother doing much writing because they're going to do all of that. Like Bill Murray's just going to do his thing, and then it's going to be hilarious and go
I
from
know
there.
I know he's known for improv. I don't know that, like, there's being an actor, and then there's like improving your lines. I think that's very different. So unless they, like, I don't know, maybe those other people are great at improving lines, but I think you have to write for most people, right? Like, I don't mean that as a dig against other actors. It's just, I think you're supposed to have writers and actors, and every now and then you get like a Bill Murray who's going to throw in a bunch of random lines that may or may not work, and you make those decisions in editing. But I feel like they didn't, like, what funny lines did they write for Gina Davis? Like,
Yeah, she didn't have any.
If it was our plane, it would be on fire.
Oh yeah.
yeah, all right. It
Well,
wasn't a knee
That's like
slapper.
what?
It was all right.
A line?
It was a
Like,
line.
Well, I think to that point, yes, I think that some of the story elements that didn't pay off, like the watch and the envelope of money and stuff like that, that could have all built to this ending, um, didn't pay off, and that was one, story wise thing that I think was lacking in the movie. But I think the other thing that was lacking, and I think this goes to what you're all talking about, is just the character relationships. Like, I did not understand who any of these people were to each other. Bill Murray, I think, was the clearest, and I think it's only because your brain fills in the blanks because it's Bill Murray. Like, you know what Bill Murray's about from Ghostbusters and Groundhog's Day and everything else. Like, you know what that dry wit is and what his character is, so he doesn't have to do a lot of work. Like, you sort of understand who he is and how he operates in the world. But like, I didn't understand why Gina Davis was with him. I didn't understand why they were together and what their history was. I really didn't understand Randy Quaid. Like there wasn't enough background to make me care about these three as a group. So that was hard.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't buy them as a couple, like Gina Davis and Bill Murray, and not just because I had, just read all the stories about how she didn't really enjoy his company, but like I didn't really get them, and like he just seemed like '80s businessman Bill Murray, and Randy Quaid was just whatever the hell he was, and yeah, I agree. I didn't get their relationship to one another, and therefore I didn't necessarily know what I was rooting for the outcome of the movie to be.
I mean, they told that whole story about uh, there was some background story that they told that sort of explained why they robbed the bank, and I'm gonna butcher it because I didn't pay enough attention to it to really reiterate it properly. But it was something about like he had a really awful day in New York, and that they were going to bed together, and that he's like, remember when I convinced you to rob a bank, remember what you said, like they sort of told some story about the two of them together, and how they decided to rob a bank. And like the movie would have almost been better off if it showed us, like it would have been better off if we had a flashback to you know to what their lives were like before and why they wanted to rob a bank. And that we could see them, we could see a baseline for them, like that we could see them interact as a couple, we could see them like deal with the challenges of life as a couple, and not just the challenges of trying to get to the airport.
Yeah, I agree. I think a flashback would have went a lot, even a little bit would have gone a long way with establishing these characters, and maybe some sort of lead up to why they robbed the bank, because I think the whole bank robbery thing, was indeed the most enthralling thing in the movie. It was all very much downhill from there, and I think that's where, had they decided to make all the things that happened to them in New York City progressively weirder, and then eventually wrap up with some sort of really clever convergence at the end, would have made that feel less anticlimactic. But like, I remember being very into the movie when they were doing the bank robbery, but also like kind of wondering when I was going to understand who these people were and why I should be rooting for them, since they are bank robbers. So why do I want to root for these guys who are gonna steal from people? Um, and it didn't really get there. It didn't really show us much. It just kind of told us sort of what their history was, and that was all they really gave us. And it wasn't enough for it to really have any sort of emotional resonance. Not that it needed crazy emotional resonance. This is a comedy movie about a clown robbing a bank and then a bunch of weird shit happening in New York, but still something more would have been very more appreciated.
Yeah, if we, you're right. If we empathize with them a little more, then we forgive them a little bit for being the bad guys and robbing the bank.
Yeah, like he says, "Our job sucks," or "I was a city planner," and like you get this one thing where he's talking about he's a city planner, and they're gonna tear down this building, and
Yeah,
oh
why
well,
didn't
not my
that
problem
come
anymore.
back? Like they cut from the older cop appreciating architecture and being mad that they're knocking down the building, to like the next scene Bill Murray's doing the same thing, and then they never come back to that connection between him and the cop or the architecture or none of it. It really felt like that was headed somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was laziness. It was not. It wasn't a well conceived movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Certainly had the bones to be one, but again, it wasn't bad. I was entertained by the movie. I was definitely entertained by it, top to bottom. I was never bored. I wasn't looking at my phone or anything like that. I was just, we weren't even all having conversations while it was happening. It was just the three of us were just sitting there watching the movie. It was just entertaining enough to keep me interested, but also not entertaining enough to keep me wanting to talk about it. Besides, right in the beginning of the movie, when the cops are showing up, and this is the only note I wrote down, for the bank robbery thing, there was one cop that had an unreasonable amount of back sweat. One of the cops gets out of the car and the back of his shirt is just soaked through. And that stuck with me for the whole movie.
For the whole movie. Kris is thinking to himself, I think that guy's got to go to a doctor. He might not make it.
When are we getting more of that guy? Like, I want to know. I want to know what happened.
It was a stressful bank robbery. He's got a gland problem.
It's a hot day in New York.
Yeah.
He's working hard. He's working hard.
I want to circle back to the jousting and the
all day. I
bike
can just watch that
Yeah.
scene over and over.
And
that was the gem on this movie.
Where was the spinoff?
What a whole movie about that guy's backstory. How did he get there that day?
That's the sequel, Bike Joust. Yeah, I want to circle back to that and a little bit about the Tony Shalhoub cab driver. So I think that the thought that crossed my mind about this movie, you got to bear with me a little bit. Like I don't think this was like overt. Like I don't think that this was like hugely problematic and egregious. Like I think, like we watch a lot of movies, a lot of things from the 80s and 90s. We sometimes look at them and we go, ooh, that didn't age well, certain ways that women are treated, or I think we've talked before a lot about that. Like you're always going to find a derogatory term, somebody calling somebody else gay or something like that. Like it was it was baked into what was being put out in the 80s or 90s. And I don't think that there's anything in particular in this movie that didn't age well. I mean, like in general, you could say that a new generation probably wouldn't understand how lost you could get without having a GPS phone.
Right.
Like I know the movie is set in a time before that, and it does things to tell you that, oh yeah, the street sign got taken down, and like there's nuggets of humor that are laid that lets you see why they got so lost. But I don't think anybody that wasn't around then could really comprehend how lost you could get without directions. But like beyond that, I don't think there was like things that were hugely problematic. But I think one thing that like I guess rubbed me a little bit wrong, and again, I think you got to be like really looking for it and reading into it, is like I think the movie kind of otherizes people a little bit. So it like there was a lot of things that were shown that were indicative of New York, showing New York as like bizarre, weird. This could only happen in New York, only in New York, and like of course this would happen in New York. And then it's clear that like that's why they want to get out, and that Bill Murray hates New York for this reason, and is like anything that we can do to get away from this right here. And then the movie is sort of like diverse in who they're showing, because they're going through low income areas where they're getting lost. The bike joust, I think it was all like Hispanic people. There was that African American woman on the corner shouting, the flowers for the dead thing. Like there was a bunch
again, that should have been a great scene, and we already forgot it until you brought it up just now.
Right.
And, like,
Exactly.
Randy Quaid reacting to her and Gina Davis, and when I watched it, I laughed a little. It was all there. I'm sorry. Go on with your point.
I guess what I was going to say
close.
was there was a lot of weird things that were realistic to New York, and New York is very diverse, and the movie sort of, I think, reflected that in the way those things were shown, and the casting and the areas they were in and what they navigated or whatever. But I think because the main cast was the whitest white bread whitiness of the whites, that then it felt kind of like, get me away from these people. You know, like I felt like I think you got to be really looking for it, but I think somewhere deep in the back of my mind, it felt like the movie kind of otherized people a little bit. That was just my thing.
I don't know what otherized means.
Like just that, like, you know, like
It spoke to us, and anybody not like us is the others.
right,
Okay. All right.
like
Cool. Got it.
if you are not Bill Murray and Gina Davis and Randy Quaid, if you are not this, middle class white, whatever they were, that
Culturally,
like,
racially, economically, if you were different in some way,
yeah,
you're the other.
and that I think how much they hated everything that was going on around it really like punched that a little bit for me, you know. And again, like I don't think it was intentional in the movie, and I think it's just something I see looking at it now, but that was something that crossed my mind about it.
Yeah, it didn't. It didn't jump out to me, but now that you mention it, I see what you're talking about. It wasn't like it certainly had diversity, but it wasn't necessarily always painted in a positive light. It was like, boy, everyone but us is weird.
Yeah. Like the
But I
tone.
kind of feel like that's a little bit, and maybe I'm just. I mean, you walk down the street in New York, especially from like one end to the other, like you see people jousting on bikes, and you know what? Maybe that's their culture, and maybe I'm just otherizing too. But like New York is the perfect example where everything. I don't know. Maybe in New York City, it's okay to otherize, maybe because just like it, it's two different worlds from one block to the next. It doesn't matter. You could be from either one of those blocks, but if you go 2 blocks over, it's a different world. It's a
Yeah.
different culture. It's a different economy. It's a different way of life. And I think you're right. The movie probably would have felt less. I didn't notice it until you pointed it out either. It probably felt less icky if our protagonists were a little bit more diverse.
Right.
But I think that if they were a little more diverse, they wouldn't have had that problem. But because I think there's a truth to it. Like it's just such, you can be in a ghetto, and then 2 blocks later you're in, this high rises and guys in really expensive suits walking around. And one neighborhood looks, whatever, like, everybody's Russian, and then a couple blocks over everybody's Chinese. Like, I mean, it's different worlds from block to block.
Well,
Um,
and which, to my point about that, made made it made the whole Tony Shalhoub cab driver thing feel really weird because um it I there was some element of the joke that was missing there, and I guess he had to not speak English, because if he could speak English, then he would clearly tell the cops that's them, they're getting on the bus. You know, like if he could speak English, they wouldn't have freaked out in the first place that they weren't going to get to the airport, and they would have stayed in the cab. But then also, if he could speak English, like it would have ruined the whole thing with the cops. So like it felt like an afterthought with the writing, like, oh, guess we gotta have this guy not speak English. But then, yeah, because of that, like, they were so weird and gross and douchey to him, and then like none of his jokes landed or were funny. Like, maybe if they were miscommunicating, and Tony Shalhoub's lines were subtitled, and you could see what he was actually saying,
oh,
like maybe if
that
he
might have
was
helped.
talking to them about peanut butter
Hmm.
sandwiches, and they were like, the airport, like maybe we would have laughed more. But like, I don't know, the stuff with the cabbie really made me like annoyed.
Yeah, I agree that that didn't land for me at all. The cabbie doesn't understand him. Like, okay, what's the joke? And like, really, how exactly is he a cabbie when he doesn't understand any English at all? I
and
don't know.
and
Didn't land for me.
was he speaking a real language, or
I
you
don't
know
think so.
was like a you know uh like a
They
Andy
didn't.
Kaufman, Locke Gravis, like made up language.
I
Yeah,
thought he was speaking Italian because didn't the mobster understand him?
Oh, I don't know.
did he?
I don't think anybody
Yeah, I thought
understood
the
him.
mobster understood him, but I could be making that up. I don't know.
I don't know. If so, they should have made that clear.
I should have made a lot of shit clear.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know how much filming was done, but I feel like if if there was a lot of editing choices, those choices were wrong. Like if this was all done in one shot, I kind of get why it turned out this way. If they had 2 or 3 takes on each scene, I think they just consistently picked the wrong take and edited out like the 2 lines where it's like, "Hey, this mobster understands this guy. That's why they're both in the back of my cop car." Because it was just vague. He was like, "I need this guy to come with me to make an ID," but you didn't know who he was referring to. It was either the mobster or the cab driver. You assumed the cab driver, but then why did he bring the mobster? And the only reason they went to the airport is because the mobster told them that the big mobster was there. I don't know. I, it
I, th-
was
I
it
think
was
the only reason they brought the mobster was they recognized him as a criminal that they were looking for, and were like, oh, like I think to the cops it was a happy accident. Like they already wanted to arrest him for something, and then in responding to this other call, they're like, that must be our guy. This guy that we're already after.
no wait. I'm talking about when they go to the airport at the end. They go there to get the mobster, right?
I
That's
thought
why the cop goes there.
I thought you were asking what the. I thought you were talking about the bagman, the guy that Bill Murray
Right.
impersonates.
Right. Why did they bring him to the why did they bring the cab driver to the airport? Let's say it that way. Because I kind of get they didn't want us to know what was happening, so they have both of them in the cop car. But why did they actually bring the cab driver to the airport?
Right. Yeah. I assumed it was to ID them, but then that never happened.
Well, because we find out that they weren't going to like they never talked to that guy, so they don't know that Bill Murray and Gina Davis are getting on the airplane. I think what we were supposed to fill in God, again, they could have done a little more work here. When the cop gets on the plane, he gets on the plane to get the mobster. He doesn't get on the plane to get Bill Murray and happens to find the mobster. He gets on the plane to get the mobster because the bagman told him where the mobster was.
I
Because when
assumed
they
I
when
assumed
they
that
get off the plane, the bagman's like the mobster realizes the bagman ratted him out.
okay. I assumed that the bagman told him that the mobster was getting on the plane. That Tony Shalhoub points to the the bus and is like, the guy that got out of my cab. I mean, he didn't say this, but that like, I, I think the cops thought that the mobster was the same guy that was in Tony Shalhoub's cab, so that when the bagman directed them to the airport and they got the mobster, that they assumed that they were getting both the guy that was in the cab and the guy that robbed the bank and the mobster all rolled into one. Like,
They thought the mobster robbed the bank?
I think based on the confusing information between the bagman and the cab driver that didn't speak English, that they thought that the mobster robbed the bank.
All right. So that would almost make some sense, except the cop knows the mobster. He knows what he looks like. And he also
Yes.
knows that the orange haired guy was the clown, and he knows that that's not the mobster because he knows the mobster
I mean,
because he's been chasing him.
I didn't say that my theory made sense. It was just what I thought was happening.
You know what the worst part is? Your theory doesn't make sense, and it still might be correct. That might be what they were going for, despite the fact that there's a loophole there.
I don't even know. I have nothing to add to this
Yeah.
part of the conversation at that point. I don't think I had thought nearly enough about what was actually happening. I definitely remember feeling a bit confused as to why everyone was where they were. I know the movie wanted me to think that Bill Murray thought he was about to get caught and then Mobster was there and he got caught instead,
Sure.
and they were just like, "All right, and now you get to go away and
Oh God! And then that last joke about his name. You know what? I missed it, and then the cop reacted, and I still didn't quite get it. And then I was like, "Oh right, Chip or Skip or whatever it was." But like I had
Yeah,
already
he first he
forgotten.
said Skip and then he changed it to Chip or whatever it was, and
And then at the end, he gave the
he's
name
like,
Chipkowski or whatever.
mm-hmm.
And I had completely forgotten he gave the name Chip at the beginning of the movie because the movie is largely forgettable.
Right. Remember this thing from the beginning that you already forgot? Turns out it was important.
Turns out, if you want that last joke, you better remember it. Uh, what's our opinion of this movie? We usually give a thumbs up, thumbs down. I mean, I laughed. I'm not going to call it bad,
Yeah,
but
no, I'm
but
not
I'm
gonna
not
say
telling
it's
anybody
bad.
to run out and watch it.
I'm going to turn my thumb squarely to the side.
Yep, I agree.
I'm going to face it upwards and then go, and then turn it kind of to the left.
I'm going to go
I'm gonna
right. I'm
say
going to go to the right.
if you've seen every other Bill Murray movie, then you should watch this one too.
Sure.
But
Sure.
only if you've seen the rest of them first. Yeah, it was fine. I'm not even gonna put my thumb up. I'm just gonna put my hand out like we're playing rock paper scissors and I'm playing paper.
That's fair.
So
That's what I got.
your flat hand is right between Sean and I's thumbs pointing at each other, and we've made a thing that no one cares about.
Yeah.
Much like this movie.
Much like this movie.
As did the director of this movie. He made a thing no one cares about.
All right. Well, I guess it's time for us to figure out what we're watching next. Who wants to go first this time?
I'll go.
You're gonna go, Sean?
Yeah, I had it narrowed down to two. I'm gonna go with Repo Man.
Okay.
Have you guys seen Repo Man?
Is it called like Repo Man, a genetic opera?
Is that what it's called?
Oh, I don't know.
It stars Emilio Estevez. It's from like 1980. I don't know.
I can't remember if I've seen.
Is it a horror movie?
You know what? I do remember this movie, and I can't answer that question. Not because I'm keeping anything from you.
Oh no, okay. Yeah, no.
No, I have not seen this.
There's a movie called Repo, the Genetic Opera, and then Repo Man is 1984 with Emilio Estevez. Yeah,
A young punk recruited by a car repossession agency finds himself in pursuit of a Chevrolet Malibu that is wanted for a $20,000 bounty and has something otherworldly stashed in its trunk.
I used to have a Malibu.
Yeah, this movie that doesn't even begin. It's just a weird movie. It's just a weird movie.
Hey, where can you find this movie?
It is available on YouTube. You got to pay for it, but it's available on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
$3.99, I think. Hold on, I think it's also where was it? Might have also been on something else that I'm not sure that I have.
I actually did the thing that you want this time, Sean, and I checked where you could find the
I
movie.
forgot to do it really, but then I tried to do it quick, and it was available on YouTube for $3.99. I think it was available. Oh, it's available on Prime, which I think I might not have to pay for it there, or you can pay for it on Prime if you have the lesser Prime, whatever that means. Yeah, YouTube.
Okay.
It's on a bunch of things for pay.
Gotcha.
All right, Paul, what do you got?
Kris, have you ever seen Raising Arizona?
Maybe sounds familiar.
Oh, you should watch that movie.
Is that not your pick? That was one of my backup ones. I had that, and then I was like, oh, but if I'm going Nicolas Cage with the letter R, you got to go The Rock, right? I mean,
No, I just think you should watch that movie. No, my pick. No, my pick is Roadhouse.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to watch Patrick Swayze punch and kick stuff.
Okay.
So, my pick is Roadhouse, and it is on Netflix for free right now. If you have Netflix, it's on it.
All right.
Well, me and Paul are squarely in the 80s over here. Where are you at? Right? Roadhouse has got to be late 80s, right? Maybe so. I think it's like 88.
Roadhouse was 89.
89. All right.
I'm going older. I'm going 1976. my heart wanted me to say The Rocketeer, but this is the letter R, and I've never seen Rocky, so
Wow.
I have to pick Rocky. It's
I forgot we said we were going to do that at one point when we said you hadn't seen Rocky. There's so many movies. I feel like there's just come on, man. What are you doing?
If we pick Rocky, we're gonna have to watch them all then.
I mean, I'm not sure if I've seen Repo Man. I've definitely seen Roadhouse more than once, but I've never seen Rocky. And I know that my good friend Mike Sheridan would be disappointed in me if I didn't at least recommend Rocky. That's my pick. All right, Rocky it is. Okay, everybody, we are going to watch Rocky, which is available on Prime Video for rent or buy.
Wait. Because you're gonna edit that, I think we need to let the people at home know what just happened. So I voted for Repo Man. Sean voted for Rocky, and Kris voted for Roadhouse. And so we had a 3-way tie, and then we all tried to text Greg and say, "What's happening? What's happening? Which one should we do?" And Greg responded, "Yo, Adrian." So Greg has spoken.
We can only assume that means Rocky. All right, I'm finally going to see Rocky. Mike Sheridan will be thrilled.
Wait a second. Adrian is the name of the main girl in Repo Man too.
Really?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, I'm full of shit. That doesn't make any sense.
I was about to look it up.
I did look it up. I'm looking through the guests. It's like,
Son of a bitch.
it's not true. It's not true at all. All right. So, yes, Rocky, the original, which is available on to rent or buy from Prime Video, appears to be the only legal options according to IMDb.
How many Rocky movies are there? Like 10? I can get through all those in a month. Give it a go.
There are 6 Rocky movies, and there are 2 Creed movies with a third one coming out in a couple months.
There's more than 6 Rocky movies, isn't there?
Nope, there are 6 Rocky movies.
You counting? I can picture 1 through 5. And then there was like the Rocky Balboa movie.
That was the 6th one.
That came out like in like the 15 maybe. Right?
2006.
Yep.
2006. That okay.
Creed was 2015. Creed 2 was 2018. Creed 3 is next year.
All right. The only one I never saw was Creed 2, which no excuse. Creed 1 was actually surprisingly good.
Oh, you got to see Creed 2. He fights the son of the Russian guy. He fights the son of Ivan Drago. Yeah.
And that's apparently going to be a spinoff too.
Drago?
Yeah.
Oh, good God.
But look,
the Rocky verse.
I thought Creed was going to be terrible. Like, I didn't see it in the theater. I thought it was going to be nonsense. One night I watched it. I don't know, whatever. And it was really good. I was like, this is a great movie.
Watch the trailer for Creed 3. It looks really good. I know you don't watch trailers, but watch it.
I end up seeing them, and then I just hate myself and hate the movie industry.
I'm a consumer whore.
I am a consumer whore.
All right. Well, that was fun, and hopefully we have stronger opinions about Rocky. I'm really interested to see this one. It's my friend Mike it's like one of his favorite movies ever. He's a huge Sylvester Stallone nut. In fact, he's been going out of his way to collect every video game based on a Sylvester Stallone property.
Does he have every version of Cliffhanger? Because those are the only ones he really needs.
He has several cliffhangers. He has some Demolition Man. I found him a copy of Rocky for ColecoVision while I was at a game show recently. He's got the GameCube version of Driven. Remember the F1 movie that Sylvester Stallone was in? There was a movie adaptation of that for GameCube. He's got a lot.
I like to think that there was a Game Boy version of Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Is that the name? Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Was there a Stop or My Mom Will Shoot video game?
I don't know. I'm making that up. I didn't say I think there is. I said I'd like to think there is. In my mind, that's what I choose to believe. I have no reason to believe it other than I hope, I dream, I wish.
That does not appear to be a thing.
We should make one.
That does not appear to be a thing. But I like collecting weird sets of video games like that. Like everything based on a Stallone movie. That's a heck of a goal. So I'm stoked to see this movie. I'm glad this is what we wound up with. and chances are I'll get to watch it with Greg. All right, let's wrap this up real quick. The Theater Near You is a part of the Geekade Podcast Network, and if you'd like to get in touch with us to share your comments, movie suggestions, or whatever, you can send us an email at mail@geekade.com. We can also be found on most social media outlets and the official Geekade Discord server, all of which can be found in our show notes. If you'd like early access to this podcast and several others on the Geekade Podcast Network, check out the Geekade Patreon, linked to in the show notes. It helps keep this show running and our site shiny and clean. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time in the Theater Near You.
We're just a couple of guys sorting some things out.